And ladies and gentlemen, we are live on all platforms. Welcome back to Deal Flow Live. This is the show that we do every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we look at businesses that are listed online for sale and we talk about our opinion on their value. We talk about what kind of person would buy them, and we talk about the things that you should consider if you're thinking about buying them, just based on our personal search for business acquisitions and the business acquisitions that we're working on. And tonight we are looking in the Nashville, Tennessee area. So we're looking at Nashville and the surrounding area. I'm your host, Brody Vinson.
I'm your other host, Ryan Santa.
And we're in for a good one tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We are looking into home services businesses in the Nashville area. So stay tuned because we're going to kind of dive in here and just look at a few different ones. We've got one picked out here already, and this is a Premier Restoration Solutions company. What made you interested in looking at this one, Ryan?
Well, I think Nashville as a city has a lot of potential. I know a lot of people have been moving there recently, similar to the Florida migration. We've seen a large migration to other southern areas like Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama. A lot of people from Florida leaving due to the influx. So I feel like there's a lot of potential for growth and development in these areas. And on top of that, a lot of businesses being developed too, given how many Nashville as a city is pretty packed, but the suburbs are developing rapidly and it's not that far of a trek out. So I feel there's a lot of potential in this area.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's there's a lot of people that are, like you said, like a lot of people are getting really tired of how much of an influx there is in Florida, and areas like Nashville, Gatlinburg, some of the like the surrounding areas there aren't seeing quite as much of that. So there's just plenty of room to develop. What do you think? What would you want to be thinking about with a restoration company in particular, and what do the financials look like to you so far?
Financials seem all right. They're pretty tight as far as cash flow to purchase price. I mean, restoration businesses, we have a good friend of ours who was wildly successful in his restoration business. And the one thing that I think we took away from the last time that he did a talk at one of our events was that it's a very intensive business. You need to be almost on call 24/7. And he works like crazy and he's very successful because of it. But there's a lot of money to be made if you're even just okay at it. So it's a business with a large line of forgiveness, but you definitely have to be on. And I think in Nashville, where they're starting to experience a wider variety of weather, as we have been in Florida, restoration is going to become a bigger issue because snow just becomes water at the end of the day, and water, flood, mold damage, that's all going to become more prevalent.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's probably like a wider variety of different restoration types that they have to do up there. It's kind of dependent on the weather that they deal with. And I agree. Like the cash flow here is a lot closer to the asking price than we usually see. I think whenever I see that gives me a little bit of pause. It throws up a little bit of a red flag. Why do you think they might be selling for such a low price?
Well, the weird thing is that I think the first thing that stands out to me is that they've been in business for 25 years, so clearly they've been able to make everything work. I mean, let me just check here. What is the reason for leaving? Does that say retirement or other endeavors? They list a reason?
They don't list a reason for leaving.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably why. I mean, you always ask for the last 3 years, preferably 5 years of tax returns on a business when you're buying it. So I wonder if we would see a steady decrease from the last couple of years in the business. Maybe they're selling as a shell. So that to me is a big issue, and I don't know exactly what the reason for selling is.
Yeah, and I'll add that the cash flow they've been running it for 25 years. After 25 years of running a restoration business, if that's all the cash flow is at, I think this is probably just chucking a truck. If I'm being honest, I don't see any employees listed either. I think this is
very mom and pop, it seems like.
Yeah, I think it's chucking a truck with some relationships, which you might lose if he or she sells the business to you. So this is definitely not one that I would want to buy.
Is this by a broker or an individual?
It says it doesn't look like it is listed by a broker. As you can see here, it's just Matt Smith, and then the name under it is Matt Smith. So I'm assuming that that is directly listed by the seller. I'm going to open up the profile here to check it out.
That's also something I'm always concerned with. Which I mean, like I love a good seller finance, seller sold deal because it makes the conversations pretty easy.
This does not look like a broker.
But
yeah.
This looks like somebody who maybe just thinks I'll just sell it myself. Or maybe they went to a broker and the broker was like, you need to fix this, this, and this. Because a broker is not just trying to get a thing. It's not trying to just sell. You're trying to make a transaction happen. And you're not just going to, I mean, as a broker yourself, Brody, you're not representing everybody who shows up with a business that's okay. You're going to tell somebody, come back and fix it. Or they can just simply hire you to consult and you can help them repair it, which inevitably you do such a good job, they end up being like, maybe I'll hold on to it for a few more years now.
Yeah, that's always the goal. I mean, like a lot of times when people set out to make their business more sellable, they just make it a business they enjoy being in and running more.
It's crazy how that happens. I saw it posted on LinkedIn from a guy that we follow and is a veteran in the industry that said nobody wants to buy a business that you're working 60 hours or something along those lines. And it was a fun. There was a bit more. It was a funnier post, but basically it was like nobody wants to buy a job unless they're a young person. But most of the time they're not getting money like this to do this. So
it's true. So I think altogether we've realized this is not a very desirable business to buy.
And if he or she is doing that gross revenue, that's a massive amount of stuff that they're like. I mean, bringing home 26, 27% isn't terrible, but like
that's actually a red flag that I forgot to point out because the margins for restoration are usually really good. On the
better
low
than
end,
this, and this is like
way better.
Regular business, you'd be like, well, 20%, that's pretty good.
Restoration though, usually like the margins are usually more like 50 plus.
The people that we've seen, talked to, interacted with, yeah, they're dialed in and they're doing well. But even they're like, you can make crazy money not being that, detailed.
Yeah, I mean, the margins are just way lower than they should be. So, I mean, given everything that we've looked at so far, I don't think this one's a good idea. It's funny how like a lot of these smaller ones, like, and I'll give the caveat that we're buying a little bit of a smaller one right now, the one that we have under contract. And it actually is set up pretty well, but a lot of these smaller ones just are not set up well enough to be able to be purchased. You really want to look for like if you're purchasing a smaller business like this one, where the cash flow is sub 300,000 a year, you really want to look for it to be like for there to be a staff in place that's going to be staying there. And this just looks like it's one person kind of making it all happen. Let's find another one.
This could easily be somebody thinking like, I just want 365,000. I'm good. But the way that you made it, it looks actually pretty sketchy. This could be an amazing business that has the systems, but just the way you pitched it, it looks like it's not good. So that could also be an issue.
Also, welcome in the Leading Indirect and also Nicholas 55. Let us know if you guys have any questions as we're looking through these businesses.
Nicholas or Nicholas?
Nicholas.
Okay. Well, we'll find out soon enough.
What do we think about the next business? And you guys feel free to tune in if you see a business that looks interesting for us to look at. We're going to break this down. Ryan, you see anything interesting?
You want to talk about the FedEx routes and the those types of things? You want to dive into that one or not?
I don't know much about them. I don't really see that as a home service business either.
It is. It's a weird one. I've done a lot of digging into those, but it's definitely not home service.
What about this a bigger one here, this short-term rental property management?
There's a lot of those in Nashville, but yeah, I mean, may as well.
Let's look at this for a moment. Also, happy to hear that you're here to interact and learn at the Leading Indirect. Just let us know if you got any questions as we're breaking it down. So this is an established short-term rental property management and cleaning company. It is cash flowing just under $800,000 a year. They're asking 3.2 million. So I'm going to say right off the bat, it is pretty expensive. It's a little over a 4 times multiple. If my math serves me correctly. Yeah, if it was at 800,000, it'd be a 4 times multiple.
It seems reasonable because you're buying literal real estate. So you're buying a business plus real estate. So it's always going to be on the higher end.
So I don't know if you would own the real estate here, though. They probably just manage the properties. I think it's like if I'm getting it right, I think what it is they probably manage like Airbnb rentals and stuff like that. Like we have my family has an Airbnb up in North Carolina, and we basically have like a property management company that handles all like the inflow and outflow of guests.
I got to talk to you about that after the episode.
Yeah, I got you. They handle all the inflow and outflow of guests, and then they pay the cleaners and like they facilitate the cleaning and everything. So that's what this sounds like to me. Is like they're managing the property and they're cleaning. Yeah, managing vacation properties,
which
includes a cleaning.
I feel
company.
Like we've said it a lot of times, but it seems like we rarely ever see 3X anymore. I think 4X is becoming the new 3X, especially when you're crossing that milli revenue. So I mean,
it's almost it's over 1.5 million in revenue. So it's doing well. Yeah, I'm being hard on it, but a 4X multiple at this level actually is not that crazy. It's a good company with solid cash flow, and the margins are pretty solid. That's got to be around 40% or so, something like that, right?
Yeah, I would say they probably have decent reviews. They probably have long-time clients, and I mean, it seems like they probably have a good staff in place. So they probably have a lot going for them where they can also say this has an intangible value of X.
Yeah, they've got 46%, 47% almost margins on the business. So they're running really solid margins. They're doing this with only 3 employees, which is kind of crazy.
Wow.
I wonder if that includes the cleaners or if they have additional contractors.
That's got to be contractors.
Yeah, I would imagine there's some contractors.
Which in that arena, I like, because that says I can go out and buy a better deal from a different company who wants to have because if I own a cleaning company, I want to work with a company like this. So I'd rather just outsource to people than have an in-house cleaning team. If I can avoid it, I probably have a better margin overall. But
you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe long term, but I think like the flexibility of not having to deal with staffing.
That's a good point.
Depends on your tolerance for staffing, I think.
It looks like they do have an in-house cleaning company, and I mean they've got crazy good margins. They've got over 50 properties that they manage. So I would imagine that they're all in like a fairly like confined area.
Or they're in just like a couple different. They're all like probably close proximity to Nashville or in Nashville proper. Man, this is a good company. I do like these. Yeah, these portfolio management type companies are really good.
The leading hand direct said, I would imagine that they do yearly contracts, and I would suspect they have in-house maintenance and cleaning crews or sister company that they outsource to, which maximizes the return.
Sister company that's probably what it is. It's probably maybe not contractors, maybe user mates. It's just a sister company under the umbrella. That's probably what it is.
That would be smart. Yeah, I mean, if they're able to get good margins on that and just like kind of capture a little bit of it, that's what I would imagine too. That's a good point. And the yearly contracts. The thing about property management, I know from experience, is like we've had ours since the end of 2022, our Airbnb, and we haven't changed property management companies the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
So just over 2 years working with the same one, and it's not because we're overly happy with them. It's because it's just so sticky. Like it would be such a hassle to change property management companies, and they're doing an all right job. So it's one of those things where like people want to kind of just set it and forget it with this as much as possible, as long as it's making good money. So I think, the cleaning contracts are kind of like tied into that most of the time. Like they're not really like, we're not really aware of who's cleaning it or not. We just know the property management company handles it. So I think the contracts for the cleaning company are probably pretty solid. They can probably get better margins if they are outsourcing it to a sister company because they know that they're going to be working that house pretty consistently. And because they know that they're probably in most cases not going to have to be dealing with people coming in and out. They're just going to get to come in, do their jobs, and be out, which speeds up the process.
I mean, it's no different than an apartment or a rental home. Like, you might be like, that's fine. The rental, this is a fine rental. It's not great. It's not awful. It's just fine. But the process of going through another, renting a new place, fees, transfers, moving, it's just a headache. You're like, I'm just fine here, actually. So as long as you don't have too much of a headache, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's a great business to start, though. I think that, somebody wanted to start a business, I think
property management
might be a lucrative thing if it's in your area, because it helps you if you're a good relationship builder. Might be a way to be like, find a local strapping young gentleman who owns a duct cleaning company, and maybe somebody else owns a cleaning company. You might be like, hey, let's figure this out.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing, is like being in a property management company gives you access to a lot of different extra streams of revenue potentially through other home services, because a lot of these homes are going to have to be serviced. So if you work out some kind of deal with a lot of like the service providers, and you've got over 50 properties that you're managing, which this one says over 50 properties that they manage, that's a lot of at bats for HVAC work, electrical work, plumbing work, all these different things, landscaping, all these different things that you could start to kind of bolt onto your services, because no one that's paying for property management is going to want to be trying to handle any of that. This is a second home or third or fourth or fifth home that they have that's just more of an investment property, most likely.
For sure. And I think when you look at the barrier to entry, you're likely going to have the easier time getting into property management, because it seems like it's more of a systems in place type deal, where you say, I have this portal, you'll get, this is our fees, I'll take care of everything. And as long as you just take care of the place, people are going to be like, all right, that's fine. Which, getting into an HVAC company, finding one to purchase, they're going to probably want to see some sort of experience in the industry. And if you don't have it, it might be a whole thing unless you're partnering with somebody, but you don't. So I think in our realm, where you're looking for, home services, this one starting, if you're starting out, this might be a business where you could buy a property management company, maybe not this size, but a small one, because, you understand how to do operations, or you have managed one rental.
Yeah. And I would also say, I have a friend here in town actually who has a property management company, and he does really well. It's a very like scalable business that he's got, where he's just, he's focused every year on just adding more doors under management, expanding the team. It's a pretty straightforward business. So it's a good, also, what's up, Jay Croak 12, one of the hottest SBA studs in Orlando. He is at, you'll have to remind me what bank you're at. I want to say Seacoast. Is that right? He's an SBA lender here in town.
Got anything but Truist.
But welcome to the stream. Let us know if you got any questions. We are breaking down home services companies. So altogether with this one, I think it's fairly priced. The revenue, the one thing that we haven't talked about yet on this that actually really warrants it having a slightly higher multiple, at a 4x multiple, is that the revenue is very sticky on a property management company. Like, the revenue that you're going to have is pretty directly tied to just the continued operation of the rental properties. And like I was saying, like, we haven't changed our property management company in over 2 years of having a property. I think that's probably pretty commonplace, is like, you get it, you just hold on to it, and you don't really want to go through the hassle of changing your property management company. So I think when they add these doors, as long as they do a decent job, the revenue is really reliable and sticky. And you're basically like, you're using someone else's assets to bring your revenue in. It's usually on like a revenue share. That's what ours is, at least. I think that's how pretty much all of them operate. The Leading Hand Direct says, finding ways to vertically integrate is very underrated and a long-term goal of mine. Let us know what kind of vertical integration you're interested in. That's definitely interesting. I think vertical integration is really, really smart. Horizontal integration too. If you've got let's break those down for a second. If you've got this property management company, if you're looking to horizontally integrate, you just go buy another property management company and take over their properties. All of a sudden you got more doors. You could find a way to make your money back over time. It could be a really good bet. If you're vertically integrating, it's like, with some of the stuff that we talked about before, it's it's finding other home services companies to bolt on. They're kind of already doing it with the cleaning in a certain sense, especially if they do have it in-house. But I definitely think both are this is conducive to vertical, especially.
Oh, for sure. This is perfect. I mean, horizontal, buy more houses and put them under yourself. Like, a lot of ways to go about it.
Mm-hmm. You just have to increase the size of the team and make sure that it's all getting serviced regularly. But yeah, I'll give this one. Let's grade the two that we've seen so far. What would you grade that first one? I'll start. I'm gonna give it a D.
I'll just do it. It's an F. It's an F. That thing is like, that's the curse of like, that's the I'm gonna sell it myself mentality. I built it, I'll sell it. Like, maybe it is a good business and he just literally only wants $365,000 and his whole financial goals are set. He's done, he's good. But the way it's pitched, the way it looks like a dying business that someone's trying to get off their hands, which is a terrible look. And honestly, go to a broker. I always say,
no broker's going to take a business like that.
But that's why you go to a broker, figure it out. Like, yeah, you could sell your house on your own, or you could go talk to somebody like Brody's mom who does it for a living. And they could tell you all the reasons why nobody would ever buy your house for that much and how to get it there or how to price it. So that's that. On this one, though, I'm going to give it a B+.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. I'm going to give it a B. Mostly just because the multiple is a little bit higher than I would want to pay at that level of cash flow. But at the same time, we found a lot of good reasons to justify that. So I'm not going to knock it too hard. But I'll give it a B because I think it's a great business, solid, established cash flow. If you own this business, $800,000 a year, you're taking home good money. One thing we haven't been doing the last couple times is kind of mapping out the SBA acquisition scenario. Let's take a second to look at what that would look like. Because this is, as we know, you can acquire a business under $5 million with an SBA loan entirely if you qualify.
Give me the calc, Brody.
Let's do it. So we're going to calculate what would it look like to acquire this short-term rental management and cleaning company with SBA financing. So you'd get, for the $3.2 million purchase price, you would get an SBA loan for, let's say, the entire amount. So you're going to put down of 3.2 million.
If you want that 10%.
It's going to be about 10% of that. You're going to have to put down 320,000. Now, maybe you have that money saved up yourself. Maybe you don't. If you don't, a cool strategy is that you could potentially go find a private investor that wants to have a stake of equity in this company. Maybe they put down the 320,000 and they get like a 15 or a 20% stake of equity in the company. And then they get distributions that match that.
But Brody, you just said they gave me 10% of the value. Why do I give them 15 or 20?
Well, you would want to incentivize them to make it worth it, right? You're not trying to hide the fact from them that you're not the one putting money in. You're taking on the collateral of the business through the SBA loan and the personal guarantee potentially. Or maybe they are if you don't have the ability to, but you're taking on some of the liability for the SBA loan and the ability to pay that and probably operating the company. But you want to incentivize someone like that to get more equity than what they're putting in because they're putting in the real capital of the contribution. So you got to make it worth their while. They likely are not going to go for it if it's, 10% or even less. In a lot of cases, but it really just depends too. I've seen some situations where they do go for that. So it depends on the deal and what else they're getting. But I would say, they want to do like if you want to do it like that, you're going to have them put down 320,000. And then what are your yearly payments going to look like? So you pay that down front, and then
let's do for the sake of easy math, we'll say it's a 10% interest with the SBA loan year over year. I think it can go up to like 12, but I think we'll say 10 for the sake of easy math.
So what do we have left on the loan after the down payment? We got 2.88 million.
So you're doing like 280K a year.
So we're going to I'll put 11% interest because I think that's a little closer to what it is right now. So then we've got, so altogether with the interest, it's going to be about just under 3.2 after. So pretty significant actually. But the cool thing about that is that gets spread out over 10 years. So your payment on this is going to be about 319,000 per year. Or roughly about 26,000 a month. So that 319 or just about 320,000 a year is going to be coming out of that 798,000 in cash flow. So what does that leave you?
For something.
Minus 798, 314. So that's going to leave you with roughly $478,000 a year of cash flow. So this is actually a really good acquisition. You like to see, like typically the rule is you like to see that the cash flow is more than double what the SBA payment is going to be. So every month you've got the cash flow coming in, and you should only have to pay out like an amount that's less than 50% of that for your SBA loan.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're kind of covering your risk. You're giving yourself some good take-home money, and you're also leaving some to reinvest in the business. So altogether, I mean, I'd rate this a good, solid acquisition. I see where you gave it a B+.
I would
still
give it
feeling
an
B+
A.
after the math?
I mean, I would have given it. I still think B+. I think it's really hard to get an A in this because I feel like a little bit of information would have been nice, like details about how they have the services mixed up. Like, is it a sister company with them thing? How do they do, like, if they were like, oh, we have multiple contractors, and they listed who they have contractors for, like a little bit more, nothing that's going to kill your business, but just a bit more general of functionality of the business. Telling me you have contractors or an in-house team doesn't really let the competition get an edge on you. So
also welcome in everybody new. Welcome Jeff Finances 18000 and Samanyu Goyal. We are looking at a property management company, and we kind of just broke down an acquisition scenario. We talked about what it would look like to acquire this business for $3.2 million at $798,000 in cash flow. We found out that if you got an SBA loan for this business, then you would be paying about, what do we say? It was about
$320 a year.
$320 a year in debt that you're covering, but it's making $798,000.
So you're bringing out about 400. So you say, all right, say you have, let's say out of that 470 or something, about 100 and something. You say about 100K stays in the business for emergencies minimum. Let's say that for that first year, after that first 100K, maybe you pay out some bonuses to your people. Well, there's 3 people, so maybe like
another 50K in bonuses or so.
Yeah, you
probably high, but round up.
Yeah, I mean that, and then like bonuses to your whoever's doing to your team, whatever. Really kind of incentivize people to stick around and be like, oh man, like this is probably growing. And then you're taking home like close to 200K that first year.
Yeah.
And then every year after that, you can say, okay, maybe I put a bit more towards this loan as you scale your business up, because this is only what it's making right now. You want to make more.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to like keep expansion.
And if you're really not trying to like squeeze the business and take out as much cash as possible, maybe you just take 100K home or even 50K the first year, and you just put a ton back into paying down the loan, and you get it paid back quicker and quicker, or you reinvest more of it into the business. I think is an even better idea, because then after the first couple of years, the cash flow is going to go up if you're reinvesting wisely and finding new team members, finding ways to get more customers,
finding ways to eliminate a lot of the work that you're doing that maybe you don't want to do, or you're not as skilled at, bringing on a marketing company, or just taking 100K and being like, all right, 100K is going to go towards the next acquisition, and I want to pay cash for it. So
exactly. Also, we got some comments here. The Leading Hand Direct says, I think it's always great when a property management company also owns or manages an event space or wedding venue near their property that offers package deals to cover the needs for customers. Yeah, I think that's smart. He also said also a concierge service for parties and could be another service revenue stream. Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think like things that service the people that are renting out the properties could be really interesting. Um, anything that someone might need, like for parties. I don't know if you want to have parties in these properties, but like if there's some ways to like find businesses that service people that are on vacation and are doing that are likely to do Airbnb rentals, and you own this company, then all of a sudden you've got customers that are constantly coming through all your 50 plus properties that you could potentially remarket to.
Like we were saying, if you just have the cash on the side, just buy the next house, buy the next door. Like there's a lot of ways to do this.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. So altogether, we had one really good acquisition. We had one really bad one. What would you say is the biggest thing you learned tonight, Ryan, or your biggest takeaway?
Oh, man. Nashville is growing as a city. You can see it in the census data. You can see it in other sorts of data. So there's a lot of opportunities and growth in there. I think that there is a lot of vertical integration, which we talked about, which is adding on services to complement what you're doing in some of these businesses. And if you're trying to get into buying a business, simple businesses, like I say simple in quotations here, like cleaning business, property management business, stuff where you could get a loan for that, maybe not this large, but get into the space like that with a loan with a little bit of experience, enough that I say, okay, like you are competent in this realm. It's easier than say an HVAC or plumbing, where if you're not a tradesman, they're probably not going to give you the money, but this is the way to jump in and then buy those to add on to what you're doing. So, and even possibly get a deal, because maybe you contracted with somebody for a few years and they're looking to sell, they come to you first because they have a relationship with you.
Yeah, I think that goes right along with like my biggest takeaway as well for this one, which is, between the two that we looked at, obviously not very interested in the restoration company we looked at, but the property management company, I couldn't help but think like, wow, is it great to own a business that's kind of a hub for other things? And they're like, with a property management company, you've got this hub of activity where all this stuff is flowing through, and there's all these opportunities for different revenue streams. And so I think a really good way to just increase those revenue streams is, you just, like you were saying, you leverage the relationships and the activity that's kind of coming through the door already.
I mean, that's how you do a lot of your deals. It's all relationship based. These are all off market deals that you get across your desk from people who you've interacted with, you've helped out, you've worked with. So a business that allows you to have your fingers in a lot of other businesses and work with other people is going to pay dividends down the road, as long as as long as the relationships are good.
Yeah, agreed. Well, this has been an awesome episode. Let us know if you've been tuning in, what your biggest takeaways have been. This has been Deal Flow Live, and we have been breaking down home services companies, giving our opinion. We'll be right back next week at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, like we always are, to do another analysis. And we've got some cool guests planned for the next couple months.
Yes, we do.
And I've been one of your hosts, Brody Vinson.
I've been your other host, Ryan Santo.
And Ryan, where can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Ryan Santo on LinkedIn. Just shoot me a little request and then a message. Just let me know where you found me from. Happy to chat with everybody.
And Ryan Santo is spelled just like this for anyone who is tuning in on Instagram. And the Leading Hand Direct, thank you so much for your comments. We will be happy to have you next time. And if you're looking to find me, you can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, a bunch of other platforms as well, but those are the best two to message me on. BrodyVinson.io on Instagram and BrodyVinson MBA on LinkedIn. Message us, let us know your biggest takeaways from the episode, and let us know what kinds of companies you want us to cover. Let us know if you want to be on the show too. If you want to come on the show, we're happy to have you on and do some analysis. But until next time, this has been Deal Flow Live, and we'll see you on the next one.
See ya.